I've read the material, and my takeaway is that we should all just abandon our responsibilities, let the dishes rot in the sink, let people completely fail at their jobs. I mean, it's a total mood. Just let the universe collapse into absolute chaos and sit back with some popcorn.
Well, I checked the math on that, and while I frankly love the chaos, abandoning society is absolutely not the takeaway here.
Wait, it's not.
No, not at all. What we're actually doing today is looking at Mel Robbins' Let Them theory. We're finding a much more realistic, scientifically grounded way to reclaim your personal power.
Okay, fair enough. I can get behind that.
Our mission is to extract the big truth about giving up the incredibly exhausting illusion that you can control other people and, what actually happens to your brain when you finally stop trying.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because I am highly caffeinated and ready to go. I mean, getting to that big truth took some work. It took me like 4 cups of coffee just to survive the sheer volume of neuroscience data in these sources.
It is pretty dense stuff.
It really is. But I promise you, to whoever is listening to this right now, we have distilled the absolute best, most factionable parts of this research.
We certainly have. And to really understand where this psychological framework comes from, we have to look at the context of the author's life. Because it didn't just emerge in a vacuum. It was born out of intense neurological stress.
Right. So picture this. At age 41, she was completely unemployed, $800,000 in debt. Her husband's restaurant business was crumbling, and she was basically paralyzed by anxiety.
Not a great situation to be in.
No, it's awful. And out of that absolute rock bottom, she invents the 5-second rule, counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like a NASA rocket launch, to just force herself out of bed and take action before her brain could talk her out of it.
And the mechanism behind that is really important. When
Yeah.
she counts backwards, she is deliberately interrupting her brain's default habit loop, which at the time was just procrastination and panic.
Right, yeah.
And she forces her prefrontal cortex to engage. But what's critical to note here is that the 5-second rule is entirely about controlling yourself. It's a tool for internal self-regulation.
Okay, so it's all inward facing.
Exactly. The let them theory is the exact opposite side of that coin. It's about recognizing the futility of trying to regulate the external world.
Which brings us to the inciting incident, the origin story.
Right.
And it doesn't happen in a sterile lab or on some mountaintop retreat. It happens at her son Oakley's high school prom.
Ah, yes. The ultimate stress test for any parent's nervous system.
Exactly. So it's the night of the prom. It is pouring rain. You have 20 teenagers dressed to the nines in black tie, and they suddenly realize they have 0 dinner reservations.
A classic teenager move.
Right. So what do the kids decide to do? They decide to go to Amigos, which is this tiny taco stand roughly the size of a garden shed.
And the parents, who are standing right there, experience an immediate collective spike in cortisol.
Complete swarm. Panic mode. She is furiously scrolling on her phone, yelling out to the other parents, trying to find a pizza place that delivers, like trying to commandeer the entire evening. Why do we do that? Why do we think we need to micromanage a taco run?
Well, because taking action masquerades as control, and control makes us feel safe.
Huh.
From a neurological standpoint, her brain perceived the disorganized teenagers as a threat to the perfect night she had envisioned. Her frantic scrolling wasn't actually about getting the kids food. It was a subconscious attempt to soothe her own activated nervous system.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't even about the tacos.
No, not at all. But then comes the pivot point. Her college-age daughter steps in. She grabs her mom's arm, stops the frantic scrolling, and says, "Mom, let them get soaked."
Let them ruin their sneakers. Let them go eat where they want. It's their prom, not yours.
Precisely.
Honestly, the daughter is definitely gatekeeping the best peace of mind hack ever there. Because the second she says that, the spell breaks. She realizes she is trying to manage an experience that doesn't belong to her. She is ruining her own night, stressing about whether a bunch of 18-year-olds eat tacos in the rain.
So think about your own life and how often you replicate that exact dynamic. How much of your day is completely drained by trying to control things you physically cannot change.
Oh man, so much of it.
Right. You spike your own blood pressure over a traffic jam. You get deeply agitated by a slow cashier at the grocery store. You obsess over an annoying coworker's tone in an email. In all of these scenarios, you are burning cognitive energy trying to steer a ship you aren't even the captain of.
So wait, I'm thinking about this practically. If I just say, well, let them to everything, aren't I just becoming a human doormat?
How do you mean?
Like, if someone is being openly hostile at work and I just say, well, let them, I'm just letting the universe walk all over my vibe.
It's a common misconception, but no. Saying let them is only half the equation.
Only half.
Yes. It's a fantastic psychological trick to detach from the immediate emotional trigger. But on its own, it leaves you highly vulnerable. Think of it like a seesaw on a playground.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
When someone annoys you and you say let them, it's like pushing off the ground. You launch yourself up into the air. You rise above the immediate mud of the conflict.
Yeah, I love that.
You get this temporary, intoxicating feeling of superiority.
Yeah.
You look down and think, I am so much more enlightened than this person throwing a tantrum.
Oh, I know that feeling so well. It's a great feeling. You just float above the drama.
You do. But you can't just sit suspended up there in the air, stranded in your superiority. You're completely stuck. The only way to get back to solid ground on your own terms and actually resolve the situation is by applying the counterweight.
Right, because gravity.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that second half of the equation is let me.
Let me. Okay, so let them gets you out of the immediate reaction, and let me is the proactive step. Let's ground this. How does this actually look in the wild?
The source material provides a highly relatable example. The author is on an airplane, and the adult man sitting right behind her is coughing, loudly, wetly. And he is not covering his mouth.
Ooh, the absolute worst. Instant rage. I'm already stressed just hearing about it.
And your reaction is exactly what happens biologically.
Yeah.
Her stress response is fully activated. The amygdala, which is the brain's threat detector, doesn't distinguish between a coughing man on a plane and a physical predator.
Wait, really? It treats a cough like a tiger.
It does.
Wow.
It just perceives a loss of environmental control and a potential physical threat from the germs. It floods her system with adrenaline.
Right, so she's getting angry. She can't focus on her work.
And she physically cannot control the fact that this adult man is coughing.
Short of turning around and taping his mouth shut, which I'm guessing is frowned upon by the FAA.
Highly frowned upon, yes. So the first step is the detachment. Let him cough. Let him be rude. Let him have terrible manners. By consciously acknowledging she can't control him, she stops the cortisol loop. That pushes her up on the seesaw.
But she doesn't just sit there feeling superior about her own airplane etiquette while getting coughed on, right?
Precisely. Because her prefrontal cortex is no longer hijacked by the panic of trying to control him, she can move to, let me focus on what I can control.
Right, taking action.
Let me take responsibility for my own physical boundary. So she takes her scarf, wraps it around her nose and mouth to protect herself, puts on her noise-canceling headphones, and turns up her music. Problem solved.
That is brilliant. You drop the rope in the tug of war, you let them do their thing, and you let me protect my own peace. It shifts the entire power dynamic back to you.
It does. The source of your power isn't in managing other people's behavior. It's entirely located in your response to it.
Okay, so this works great for strangers on a plane or teenagers in the rain. But what happens when the let them triggers something much deeper?
Like what?
Like what happens when the people we are trying to control or who are stressing us out are our actual friends or our family?
This brings us to a fascinating psychological principle about how we view the adults in our lives.
Oh, do tell.
The research points to a brilliant insight from depth psychologist Dr. Ann Davin. She argues that from an emotional regulation standpoint, most adults are essentially just 8-year-old children trapped in big bodies.
Wait, really? Just 8-year-olds?
Yes.
Because I am running through my workplace dynamics right now, and every single passive-aggressive email, every defensive meeting, I mean, it all suddenly makes terrifying sense.
It's humorous, but it is neurologically grounded. We tend to assume that emotional maturity naturally arrives with age. It doesn't.
You're killing my vibe with these facts, but that actually makes total sense.
Emotional regulation is a practiced, active skill. When an adult is triggered, say they feel criticized in a meeting, their prefrontal cortex temporarily goes offline due to emotional flooding.
So they just lose it.
In that moment, they don't have access to logic. They literally revert to the childhood coping mechanisms that made them feel safe when they were young.
So when a grown adult gives you the silent treatment or throws a tantrum, they aren't executing some master manipulative chess move. They just literally don't know how to process their own discomfort.
Exactly. When you reframe their behavior that way, it changes everything. You say, let them throw their tantrum, but you picture them as an overwhelmed 8-year-old.
Oh, that's such a good visual.
It removes the threat. It shifts your physiological response from defensive anger to objective observation or even compassion.
Okay, so let's apply that to the hardest part of adulthood, making and keeping friends. The research talks a lot about how friendships change as we age, right?
Yes. The material refers to this phenomenon as the Great Scattering.
That sounds so dramatic.
It is a bit. When you're a child, friendship is largely a byproduct of infrastructure. You're placed in the same school, on the same bus, on the same soccer team.
Right, your proximity is forced.
But adult friendship doesn't have that infrastructure. It relies on three very fragile, constantly shifting pillars: proximity, timing, and energy.
Right, proximity is geographic. Timing is your stage of life. Like if you have twin toddlers and your best friend is single and traveling the world, the timing creates friction.
Exactly. And energy is that intangible, unspoken click you have with someone.
And because those three pillars are rarely perfectly aligned in adulthood, friendships naturally ebb and flow.
They do. But the toxic trait we all carry into adulthood is the 8-year-old's expectation that we will always be included in the group's plans, just like we were at recess.
Oh man, the sources share a brutal, gut-wrenching story about this.
The girls' trip.
Yes, she is scrolling on social media on a Saturday night and sees a photo of all her neighborhood mom friends on this epic, beautiful girls' trip. They are at brunch, they are swimming, they are glowing, and she was completely uninvited.
The feeling of rejection in that scenario is visceral. The brain actually processes social rejection using the same neural pathways that process physical pain.
Which explains why her brain immediately spirals. She goes into full panic mode. Like, what did I do? Do they hate me? Let me fix this.
But instead of sending some tragic passive-aggressive text, she applies the theory. She says, let them go on the trip. Let them have fun without me.
And by doing that, she pushes off the seesaw.
Exactly. She detaches from the immediate agony of the rejection. She accepts the reality that they went without her. But if she stops there, she's just sitting alone in her house on a Saturday, feeling like a martyr.
Right, she has to move to let me.
Yes.
And here's where it gets real. If you feel left out, the let me is taking absolute responsibility for your own social life.
It's saying, let me recognize that I work constantly and haven't prioritized them. Let me be the one to host a dinner party next week, or let me go make completely new friends.
Which is precisely the action she took. At 54 years old, she literally marches up a new neighbor's driveway. Terrified, heart-pounding, just to knock on the door and introduce herself to try and make a new connection.
That is so deeply awkward and so deeply brave. It's taking the steering wheel back from that inner 8-year-old.
Absolutely. But let's push this further into the darker stuff. What about when it's not just feeling left out?
What do you mean?
What about when you look at someone else and you are just burning with active jealousy, like it's consuming you?
Jealousy and comparison are critical to analyze because they are universal human experiences, yet we treat them like shameful secrets. The research categorizes two distinct types of comparison.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is torturous comparison. This is when you focus on fixed traits you literally cannot change.
Like the story about the daughter Sawyer constantly comparing her body type and metabolism to her sister's.
Exactly. It's a fixed genetic reality. No amount of worrying or dieting or stressing is going to change your DNA. It's just self-torture.
Right.
If you cannot change a metric within 30 seconds, and no amount of long-term effort ever will, you are engaging in torturous comparison. You have to let them have what they have and let me focus entirely on cultivating my own unique baseline.
Okay, but what about the second type?
The second type of comparison is much more complex and much more useful. It's when jealousy acts as a teacher.
Wait, I'm putting the pieces together here. If the first type is about fixed traits, the second type must be about things we can change but haven't.
Right.
So if I see someone succeeding where I'm failing, hold on, it's like a time-traveling GPS system fueled by your future self's tears, telling you exactly what you actually want but are too scared to work for.
That is a horrifyingly graphic metaphor, but mechanically it is completely accurate.
Thank you. They tried.
Jealousy points directly to your unmet, unacknowledged desires. In the data provided, she recounts visiting a friend who was in the middle of a massive, stunning house renovation.
Oh, I remember this. She and her husband were deeply in debt at the time. Right?
Barely keeping their heads above water. And instead of being happy for her friend, she throws a complete internal tantrum. She is boiling with resentment.
That she wanted the house.
She wanted the financial security and the freedom that the house represented. Her jealousy was a spotlight, showing her exactly where she had surrendered in her own life.
So instead of sitting in bitter resentment, which is just the 8-year-old brain pouting, she used let me.
Exactly. Let me stop making excuses about our debt. Let me start putting in the grueling, unglamorous daily work to get my own financial life back on track.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about changing ourselves in response to other people, but I have to push back here.
Go for it.
What if the other person is the one who really objectively needs to change? What if a friend is ruining their health or making terrible life choices? How do we use this framework to change the people we love?
The stark, uncomfortable truth is you can't.
Yeah, come on.
You cannot force anyone to change. And the neuroscience explains exactly why our attempts to do so almost always backfire. We have to look at the clinical data from behavioral neuroscientist Dr. Talay Sharot.
Okay, what does she say?
She studies how the human brain reacts to pressure, warnings, and perceived threats.
So when I tell my friend they need to stop vaping or they need to leave their toxic partner, what is actually happening in their brain?
When you pressure someone, when you nag, guilt trip, or threaten them with negative consequences, you are directly triggering their amygdala.
The tiger from earlier.
Yes, the threat detector. Human beings have an innate biological need for autonomy. It is central to our survival instinct.
So when I nag,
Their brain doesn't hear, I love you and want you to be safe. Their brain registers a loss of autonomy, which it interprets as a threat.
so they go into fight or flight over conversation about vaping.
Yes, and here is the most critical part of Dr. Sherritt's research. When the brain is in that defensive state, blood flow is literally diverted away from the prefrontal cortex.
Wow, really?
That means the part of their brain responsible for processing your perfectly constructed logical argument is operating at diminished capacity.
That is insane.
Furthermore, her brain scans show that when people are presented with negative warnings, like you're going to get lung disease, they exhibit an optimism bias. They genuinely believe they are the exception to the rule.
Wow. So nagging isn't just annoying, it is scientifically proven to be a complete waste of breath because they physically cannot process the logic while they are feeling defensive.
Exactly. The tension in your relationship isn't necessarily because they refuse to change. The tension is being actively created by your pressure.
Okay, but logically, I can't just watch someone I love self-destruct. If I can't nag, how do I help them?
You don't force them, you influence them.
Yeah.
And that requires completely removing the threat to their autonomy.
How do we do that?
Sherritt's research points to a very specific behavioral loop to achieve this. First, you have to restore their sense of control. You literally have to apologize for nagging them and then ask an open-ended question.
Wait, I apologize for trying to help.
You apologize for the method. You say, I'm sorry I've been constantly on your case about the gym. It's your body, your choice.
Oh, I see.
By doing that, you instantly disarm their amygdala. They're no longer under threat. Then you ask a question that forces self-reflection, like, how have your energy levels been lately?
You make it their problem to solve, not yours. Okay, what happens next? Because my instinct is immediately to jump in and fix whatever answer they give me.
Which is exactly what you cannot do. This is where you apply the let them theory in its purest form. You back off completely.
Completely.
You let them sit with their own thoughts without you acting as their external conscience. You have to let them feel the natural friction and consequences of their own bad choices.
Which is agonizing to watch. When someone is struggling, our deepest instinct is to rescue them.
But constantly rescuing them is just enabling. If you always soften the blow, they never feel the pain required to galvanize the will to change.
That's tough.
People only change when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of doing the work. You have to step back. The final step of this loop is that you only re-engage to champion their positive steps.
So if they finally drink a glass of water instead of a soda, I celebrate it.
Yes, because human brains are wired to move toward positive reinforcement. And critically, while you are backing off, you focus on your let me.
Oh, right. Let me model the behavior.
Yes, you model a behavior you want to see. You go to the gym, you eat well, you manage your own stress. You show them what a healthy life looks like through your own actions, not your lectures.
You make it look so good that it becomes their idea to join in. That is incredibly powerful.
It really is.
So let's pull all of this together for whoever is listening. We've covered the illusion of control, the seesaw effect, the 8-year-old brain, time-traveling GPS jealousy, and the neuroscience of nagging.
If we synthesize all of these distinct psychological and neurological principles, the big truth is this. Relationships, whether they are romantic, platonic, or professional, are fundamentally about accepting people exactly as they are in this current moment.
Right.
It is about dropping the expectation of who you wish they could be and dealing with the reality of who they are.
Stop trying to date or befriend or employ their potential.
Exactly. There is a quote from Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts in the research that perfectly encapsulates the let me side of this radical acceptance. She asks, are these table scraps what you're willing to accept, or are you looking for a 5-star meal?
Oof, that hits hard. Because if you let them show you who they are and they show you they are only capable of giving you table scraps, You can't be mad at them anymore.
No, you can't.
It is entirely on you if you decide to pull up a chair, tuck a napkin in your collar, and eat those scraps.
Yes, your power is entirely 100% in your response. You stop chasing people who will not commit, you stop trying to fix people who do not want to heal, and you start choosing how you show up in your own life.
That is a massive paradigm shift. So what is the final takeaway here?
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, something that bubbles right under the surface of all this clinical data.
I love a provocative thought.
If you constantly feel the overwhelming, desperate need to control the people around you, their habits, their careers, their daily choices, you need to ask yourself a very uncomfortable question.
Lay it on me.
What chaotic, messy, painful part of your own life are you desperately trying to avoid looking at by focusing all your energy on fixing theirs?
Oh, wow. That is the ultimate deflection, isn't it? We try to control others because micromanaging their flaws is so much easier than facing our own.
It's the ultimate avoidance strategy. Which brings us to your homework for today.
Ugh, homework. Come on, giving out homework sounds way too much like actual effort. We're supposed to be letting the dishes rot. Remember, I want the chaos.
The dishes can wait.
Yeah.
Your homework is this. Sometime today, when someone severely annoys you, whether it's in traffic, in a meeting, or in your own living room, I want you to pause and mentally say, let them.
Okay.
Feel that detachment. Feel yourself push off the seesaw. But then I want you to actively decide what your let me response will be. How will you take your power back and protect your own peace in that exact moment?
Fine. I will do the homework. I'll test the seesaw. But I'm still not doing the dishes. I'm going to let them rot, and I'm going to let me order an absurd amount of takeout.
I think you're deliberately misinterpreting the neuroscience to justify ordering Thai food, but I will let you have this one.
See, the system works perfectly already.